Hey everyone, welcome back to In the Alley. My name is Cody. Glad you guys are back for another video. We got two games on tap for our Friday night preview. It's going to be Tulsa heading to Green Bay and part 2 of San Diego and Vegas. Let's go take a look. All right, starting us off, we are in Green Bay. It is a 6:05 p.m. Central Time kickoff. The 1-1 Tulsa Oilers taking on the 1-2 Green Bay Blizzard, and it's been a fun season for both of these teams in the sense of comebacks and no comebacks, whatever the case could be. It's been a struggle offensively for Tulsa lately, and Green Bay has had trouble closing games out. So, will that rear its ugly head for either team in this game? Let's kind of find out. Let's talk about our impact players. At first, we always have to talk about the quarterbacks, TJ Edwards versus Max Myler. Running quarterbacks, they do like to throw it quite a bit too, but very balanced offenses. They like to play run first, pass second, it seems right now, and that's with the help, and we'll talk about Green Bay in a second, that's with the help of a really nice running back. But Tulsa, they've got to find something on the running game that's not just TJ Edwards. They've used Hassan Rogers, they've used some jet sweeps, they used Quiviante Gonzalez, who's now on short-term injured reserve. So what is the next trick up their sleeve when it comes to running the ball? Because Edwards can't do it on his own. And that's something that we have noticed in the previous two games is you're going to overuse him. You have to use him not sparingly, but kind of as a surprise in a sense of like, hey, he's going to throw it a little bit. And that's the other thing too. He's throwing the ball pretty well. There's still a little bit left to be desired when it comes to that. As for Max Myler, he's done pretty well. It's just they've kind of taken their foot off the gas in the last couple of games, and it's kind of bitten them, or almost bitten them, it seems. When it comes to the skill position, Faison McClurge and Kaimani Clark. McClurge still kind of there. I mean, he's catching touchdowns. He's doing what he has to do. I want to see if anyone else can step up. That's it. I have not really heard too much from most of the other wide receiving, like with the wide receiving core. I know Cole Blackman's got some catches. I know they've had, other wide receivers and Hassan Rogers and stuff like that, but it's like no one has really stood out from the pack. So I've put Faison McClurge here again. He has that chemistry with Edwards. I know Cole Blackman does too. Augustine has been all right, but I want to see someone else step up in that skill position for Tulsa. For Green Bay, Kaimani Clark, the dude's doing it all. He has taken EJ Burgess and Jalen Cagle's spot pretty much and been like, hey, I'm going to take both of this. And he's the only running back on the roster, man, and he's doing well with it. So kudos to him. Kudos to Green Bay for doing what they're doing when it comes to running the ball. It's working. For our defense, I have Trey Harvey here. As you can see, we'll talk about in a second, Calvin Bundage on season injured reserve, so I do not know if Trey Harvey will drop down to that linebacker position or if they'll have Bembry kind of stay there. We'll talk about that in the 25-man roster, but after his 2 interceptions, I don't think he went radio silent against Fishers, but at the same time, it's just that defense is leaving a little bit to be desired. You gave up quite a few points against Fishers. You did well against San Antonio, but we'll see what can kind of happen now that you have Calvin Bundage on injured reserve. So we'll see what happens. For Green Bay, they have signed former Defensive Player of the Year, Tremont Lofton. And I don't know if their defensive line needed help, but they got it. And this is what we have. So we'll see where he slots in and who kind of loses their spot. Again, we'll talk about that in the 25-man roster. But that now makes the defense kind of scary. And if they can get more pass rush, if they can get to the quarterback, maybe that can help out their secondary a little bit because they gave up 6 touchdowns through the air to Arizona last week. So we'll kind of see how that plays into it. For our injury report, Calvin Bundage, like I mentioned, for Tulsa is the only addition to their side. And then the only addition to Green Bay, Rashawn Williams on the defensive line. So that's might be who you're replacing with Tremont Lofton. He is on the short-term injured reserve. For our betting odds, we have a -3.5 favor for Green Bay at home and an over-under of 78.5. Now, our money line is slightly favored to Green Bay at -155, but if you feel inclined, +130 if you want to think of an upset, Tulsa winning on the road. We are at the Resch Center, again, 6:05 p.m. kickoff. I forgot to mention this. We are on the Indoor Football Network. Do not ever go to YouTube ever again. We are on the Indoor Football Network, and that's where you can stream all the games. We are in Ashwaubenon, Wisconsin. I mean, again, I need to update that field photo, but still. Our head-to-head, Green Bay now leads it 3-0. Tulsa has never beaten Green Bay, which is kind of insane to think about, but again, different rosters and things like that in the past. Their last meeting, week 16 of 2024, Green Bay 54, Tulsa 20. So we'll see if anything changes when it comes to that. Let's go take a look at our rosters, our bets, our predictions, and we have another preview after that. All right, 25-man roster is popping up over my face. We start with the away side. TJ Edwards, again, most likely getting the start. Hassan Rogers, by proxy, probably your running back. We'll see who they kind of get through, who they kind of cycle through. For the wide receiving core, Max Novak, Tyrone Hell, Sheldon Augustine. They had Jeremy Neal signed right before the 25-man roster cuts. He ended up getting cut, but now he is re-signed due to injuries and things like that. So he is part of this too. Cole Blackman and Faison McClurge round out your skill positions. On the offensive line, Jeremy West has refused to report. Patrick Barrett and Zach Branner, Kerry Reynolds are your three offensive line. On the defensive line, Rudy Ngoni, Jacarius Smith, Asias Carpenter, and Trey Smalls. At the linebacker position, Marquez Bembry, and they have signed Dylan Petway, former Sioux Falls Storm, and he was with San Antonio in the offseason for a little bit before eventually getting cut. And then on the secondary, as if they needed any more players, Taylor Hawkins, Ramon Morris, Kentrell Pierce, Isaiah Smith, Katron Allen, Trey Harvey, and Jarius Grayson. Jarius Grayson was with Tucson for a couple of games last year. New kicker alert, we have Rio Ramirez. He is over Ross Moore. Ramirez did kick for Frisco for a couple of games, so again, that Frisco connection with the coaching staff. And there's your 25-man roster for Tulsa. Over to Green Bay, we have TJ Davis and Max Myler. Myler getting the start. TJ Davis, has he gotten in at quarterback? My mind is a little hazy, but I know he's been like running back and wide receiver and stuff like that, but I don't know if he has been true quarterback, maybe in some mop-up duty. Kaimani Clark is your only running back on the roster. And then your wide receivers, Andre Williams, Zane Lewis, Lowell Patron, and Harry Ballard. Your offensive line, Jake Parks, Roderick Williams, Justice Smith, and Andrew Carter. On the defensive side, a new signing, Devin Rice out of Northern Iowa. Add that to Sue Kamara, Tremont Lofton, Allen Henry, and Akeem Meatball Smith. That's a pretty tough defensive line. A lot of experience there. On the linebacker position, gone. Sir Zion Dance has been released. Jalen Johnson most likely getting the start, with Andre White being the backup. I think this is Andre White from Georgia Tech. Just a quick Google search, and that's who I found. So if it's not, apologies. Your secondary, Nigel Canada, Mamadou Mbai, Kevin Ransom, Gervin Hall Jr., and Cale Jackson Jr., along with Nerian Washington. Again, that secondary leaves a little bit to be desired. They gave up quite a few touchdowns last week. Your kicker is Andrew Mevis, and there's your 25-man roster for Green Bay. There's your 25-man roster for Tulsa. Let's go check out our bet. Let's go check out our predictions, and we got another preview. All right, so bet and prediction time. My bet, I mean, it's simple. I don't trust the spread in this one because I just don't know how it's going to go. And the over-under is just a little too low for me because I feel like these guys could score in droves, but then I also feel like the way that Tulsa's been playing, it could be a complete defensive shootout. Like, we're not scoring any points. So, the cop-out for me, I have Green Bay minus 155. I just think Green Bay right now is the better team. When you look at the roster, what scares me a little bit is the lack of depth in the offensive line position, the lack of depth at the running back position for Tulsa, and the fact that you have Tremont Lofton coming over, Sue Kamara is coming into his own, Allen Henry and Akeem Smith. Like, that defensive line looks really, really good. Jalen Johnson has played in Green Bay before, so it's not like he's new to the system or anything like that. And if the secondary can kind of secure some things, if you shut down that passing game of Tulsa, which it's kind of been shut down lately, I think Green Bay wins this one. Now, On the flip side, though, as we mentioned, Green Bay does have a little bit of a tough time closing out games, letting Arizona come all the way back, letting Iowa come within, an onside kick or two of completing a comeback. So we'll see if they can close this one out, if it's even close at all, dare I say. As for Tulsa, again, I mentioned this with Sports Coast to Coast, Alec Schuthbert. I hope I pronounced your last name correctly, man. At some point, Tulsa's offense has to get going. We don't know when it is or how it is. I had high expectations, very, very high expectations for Tulsa, and I have been let down immensely. And that's no fault on their own. Injuries and things like that happen. But it's not the way Tulsa wanted to start the season, and I know 3 games on the road to start has not been ideal, but yeah, there's not really much when it comes to that roster construction that you can kind of sit there and go, this is good. Add in the fact that you don't have a running back. Jimmy Smith is on short-term injured reserve. Calvin Bunges is on season injured reserve. They've just kind of gone through it. Another kicker already added. You're only 3 games in. It's a little bit, man. And I just think Green Bay has a better roster. They're at home for yet another week, trying to correct their mistakes from the loss to Arizona last week. I think Green Bay takes this one. I do. My prediction for this one, 38-45, Green Bay wins it. So it's somewhat close, but I think Green Bay just kind of controls it. I think it's something where it's kind of like the Fishers game for Tulsa, where Fishers has like one more possession. They're able to get out to like a 2-possession lead, and then it just never wavers. Like they just kind of trade some barbs every now and again, but it's never super close. Like they get it within 7 like this, and then Green Bay jumps back out to a 14, and then it's a 7. You just don't get that extra stop. So that's where I think I have it right now, 45-38 Green Bay, and Green Bay on the money line as well. So with that, let's go take a look at our final preview of week 4. On Friday. Final preview of week 4 on Friday. It is San Diego at Vegas. All right. Preview number 2 for Friday night. Our final preview. It is a late night kickoff, 9:05 p.m. Central Time. So sorry to the people on the East Coast, but that makes it, a 7 o'clock kickoff over on Vegas time. So, oops. Anyway, San Diego at Vegas. 0-2 San Diego, 1-1 Vegas. These guys have already met. And there was a valiant comeback for Vegas to secure the victory late in that game. But now we switch over to the Vegas side. And I think these guys meet one more time this season later on. We just kind of see how it goes. Let's talk about our impact players, Nate Davis and Jerome Johnson. Excuse me. Nate Davis and Jerome Johnson, and boy howdy could both of these teams have not been worse last week, losing both of their games. Vegas to Jacksonville, San Diego to Bay Area, and both these quarterbacks just kind of looked off. The defenses of the other teams just kind of took it to him a little bit, man. Nate Davis looked pretty inaccurate, and I get it. Some of the wide receivers were dropping passes. Jerome Johnson looked corralled. Like, he was able to run a little bit, but for the most part, once they got behind, it was just kind of trying to throw it and see what they could do. Now, he did run a little bit, but at the same time, I don't really think his talents were fully showcased, and Jacksonville's defense they can do that to you. Any given Sunday, Saturday, Friday, whatever you want to call it in this league. And yeah, it was just one of those days at the office for both of these guys. We'll see if anything can get corrected this week. Skill positions, we've got a new signing, John Maldonado, and we'll talk about that in the 25-man roster, but former All-Indoor Football League honors. That's another weapon for Nate Davis. We'll see if he can kind of slot in there, build some chemistry. They've already got a pretty decent wide receiving core, but I really think the running game is something that they should probably look at more than signing John Maldonado. Now, if he gives your offense a pep, cool. For Vegas, it's Quentin Randolph again. There's just the connection that Johnson and Randolph have, and I think they're going to need to rely on each other in this game. I do. I think Randolph needs to have a very good game. He had an all right game against Vegas. He had a pretty good game against San Diego, their first matchup, so kind of look for a little bit more of the same when it comes to this. For our defense, Jericho Flowers, for me, I want to see how this secondary goes. I do. This defense has looked not as good as they were last year. They led the league in turnovers or takeaways or whatever, if I'm not mistaken, and they have been well short of that so far this year. Flowers, Atoa Fox, Elijah Reed, like when you read these names and all indoor honors and stuff like that, you kind of sit there and go, wait, what's going on? Because how are they giving up this many points? How do they give up 48 to Vegas? How do they give up, 41 to Bay Area? Like that, how? So I want to see how this defense, Jericho Flowers in the kick return game, can the special teams get something going? It's not just always on his shoulders, obviously, but you need Fox to step up. You need Reed to step up. You need Tycorian Brown or Keyshawn Walker or anyone like that. And the defense as a whole just needs to kind of step up. On the other side, I have Claude Davis, another ageless wonder here. He's been in the league for a long time, but he did get a sack against Jacksonville. I mean, the defensive line for Vegas has been actually really good at getting some pass rush and kind of trying to stop the running game a little bit. And for the most part, for me, it comes down to, can that defensive line just create more pressure? We know what Nate Davis is capable of. He doesn't necessarily run. It's a surprise when he does. That's why I call it out. So can this defensive line get after him, make him inaccurate again, and force those throws like what Tyler Watson intercepted with Bay Area last week? Can you just kind of throw him off his timing? And it's going to come down to him, Lorenzo Hernandez, Lee Autry, Maurice Jackson. It's going to come down to that defensive line. So we'll see. Injury report. Two players to mention here. San Diego loses Mike Kerrigan, so that's probably the reason for signing John Maldonado. And Vegas loses offensive lineman Kevin Toot, but I do not believe he played in last week's game against Jacksonville. So yeah, we'll see if that truly impacted them when they played Jacksonville, if it was kind of some offensive line woes when it came to that. For our game odds, we have a -4.5. That's a pretty big spread. Vegas has a home favorite. Our over-under is 84.5, and the money line -198, so pretty juiced to Vegas, +164 if you want to take the away underdog in San Diego. We are at Lee's Family Forum in Henderson, Nevada. Again, 9:05 p.m. Central Time kickoff on the Indoor Football League Network. Stream every game anytime you want, or whatever their tagline is. And then our head-to-head is 4-2-3. Vegas has broken the tie from a few weeks ago. Their last meeting, week 2 of this season, 48-41, Vegas with that comeback. Let's go take a look at our 25-man rosters. Bet and prediction. We get on out of here. All right, 25-man rosters here popping up over my face. Let's get into it on the away side as we do. Excuse me. Nate Davis, most likely your starting quarterback, and Rudy Johnson will slot in behind him, but he will also probably run the ball, catch the ball as he does. Your running backs, Larry McCammon and Trayvon Van. Van did not play last week against Bay Area. We'll see if we see more of a running game from San Diego. They did run the ball a little bit against Vegas last meeting, and it worked pretty well. It worked pretty well. And we'll just kind of see if that is the game plan that they turn back to, or if it is something completely different. For the wide receiving core, again, Mike Kerrigan goes out, so they have to sign someone. They sign John Maldonado. The rest kind of stay the same. Journey Sloan, Dallas Daniels, and Joe Nowden. We'll see if Nowden gets in. I do not think he has played in a game yet. Maldonado could easily slot right in, and I think that's the reason why they're doing it. On the offensive line, Christian Olmstead, Jalen Booth, Josh Castro, and Jake Sines. Sines suited up last week and was kind of in for jumbo packages. Other than that, it'll probably be Olmstead, Booth, and Castro, as it has been for a little bit. On the defensive side, Wallace Cowens, Jaquez Mabin, Jalen Joyner, Panea Moa, and Karat Garland round out your defensive line. They've kind of cycled through the defensive line a little bit. Cowens, I know Joyner, Mabin have both played. Mabin's kind of been more of a special teams kind of guy. Moa, I do not believe he played last week. Garland, I believe, did. So kind of see what we do there. Roy C. is your linebacker. They have gotten rid of Frederick Tompkins. Tompkins, I believe, was his last name. And then in the secondary, Jericho Flowers, Keyshawn Walker, Tycorian Brown, Atoa Fox, Elijah Reed, and they have signed Eugene Ford. Eugene Ford with Massachusetts. I believe he's been with Frisco as well. And there's someone, there might be another team he was with prior to that. But yeah, another addition to that secondary, hopefully trying to beef it up a little bit. And we'll see if he gets into the game. But all of those guys have played at some point. All of those guys have some sort of indoor football experience. See how it meshes. As always, your kicker is Ernesto Lacayo, and that is your 25-man roster for San Diego. Over to Vegas. Not too much changes either for the Vegas side. Jerome Johnson, your starting quarterback, Jaden DeLora, he got into the game last week against Jacksonville, so nice to see him play a little bit. Antonio Wimbush is your only running back on the roster. And then the wide receiving core, Caleb Hawley, Tamarian Terry, Quentin Randolph, Daquan Dudley, CJ Wyndham, Phoenix Sproles. And they've released a couple of guys as the season has gone along, kind of whittling down that wide receiving core. Your offensive line, Desmond Bland, Zach Fortier, Moses Mallory, and with Kevin Toot on injured reserve, they've gone out and signed DJ Stuckey. He was with Bay Area to start the season. He got released. I believe he is a former Northern Arizona Wrangler, so kind of knows the Western Conference a little bit. On the defensive side, not a lot of depth when it comes to the defensive side. Maurice Jackson, Claude Davis, Lorenzo Hernandez, and Lee Autry. So again, they've done pretty well, all things considered, with just the 4 defensive linemen. Your only linebacker, Mikel Calhoun. And then your secondary, James Caesar, Justin Terry, Darius Williams, Gleason Spreewell, and Lamont Wade. So, again, just that one backup piece in the defensive line and a one backup piece for the defensive backs. And they've made it work, but you'd hope to see maybe a little bit more depth as the season goes along. Knock on wood, Mikel Calhoun was injured a little bit last year, and I'm just very, very worried. And then finally, your kicker, Paul Ortiz Jr., and that is your 25-man roster for Vegas, your 25-man roster for San Diego. Let's go take a look at our bet, our predictions, and we will move on. All right, bet and prediction time. This one is tough for me. This one is a true toss-up just because if you would have told me if these two teams played last week after the Vegas comeback that they had against them, I would have picked Vegas. They pooped the bed against Jacksonville, and then Bay Area just kind of trounced San Diego. So I don't know. Any of those expectations or things just kind of washed away because now we're at this point where it's like, okay, what offense is going to step up? What defense is going to step up? The offenses just did not look good last week, and maybe that's the reason for this bet. I'm going under 84.5. I think both these defenses, if they can get after the quarterbacks, you've clearly seen that. And you don't know, man. And part of me does want to take the over on this one because these two teams kind of feel like a bird of a feather, and in the fact of how they played each other. But when you think about it, that last minute touchdown that Vegas had made it 48-41. That gave you 89 points, which is only 4.5 more than what they needed here. And they needed to come back to do that. Now, for me, I think it boils down to, I think these defenses might be a little bit better, but the lack of depth that Vegas has, we'll see if San Diego exploits that with, obviously, John Maldonado and kind of how their skill positions go. If they do bring in a running game, if these two teams do go back and forth, but I'm just kind of leaning under here. You've had time to figure each other out. You've had another game under your belts. Hopefully there have been some changes, some strategy changes, whatever the case could be. So I'm going under 84.5 here, mainly due to that. I don't know who wins. I'll be honest. It's just kind of how it is, like I did in the first go-around. I don't know. Both these teams might be similarly stacked when it comes to experience. For me, my prediction for this one, 41-37. I think Vegas takes it. And again, we are kind of up against that 84. You're looking at 78. So yeah, it's close. I do think that we will have a close bet when it comes to this one. But like I said, I don't think it's going to be a frivolous comeback. I do not think it's going to be someone letting their guard down. I think this is going to be a nice little back and forth affair. If San Diego gets their run game going, which I hope they do, Jerome Johnson gets his legs going, maybe kill a little time. and we hopefully hit the under when it comes to that. So I know San Diego's looking for revenge in this one. They lost to them. They gave up that touchdown. They gave up the game. They want to make them pay at their home arena in Vegas. So we'll see how it goes. Like I said, I'm not surprised if San Diego wins this one, but I've got Vegas. I think they're just a little bit better. And again, Vegas had chances last week to score points in the second half. They got shut out, but they missed a field goal, missed a fourth down. Ball was intercepted by Malik Jones, which should be a top 10 play on SportsCenter. Like they had chances. There was a touchdown to Quentin Randolph that got called back because of a flag. So, like I said, it's just how it goes. And this is how I have it. I think the under hits. I think the offenses might take a little bit of time to get going. And that's just where we leave it. So, let's go wrap everything up and get on out of here. And that is it. That is it for our Friday night preview for week 4. Some good games on tap. We got some teams trying to just turn the corner a little bit and see if they can get their seasons turned around. And I think that goes for all 4. I think that goes for all 4 teams that are playing tonight. And yeah, it's gonna be fun, man. It's gonna be fun. I'm curious to see, does Green Bay get back to 500 at 2-2? Does Tulsa get back on their winning ways? San Diego did the exact revenge on Vegas. Can Vegas get that offensive performance, the shutout of the second half against Jacksonville, out of their minds? Like, what can you do here? But overall, I do think that this is going to be a very, very fun week, or I guess Friday night for week 4, and just looking forward to it. And again, these games are spaced out just enough that you can literally watch the first game, and as soon as it gets over, you can watch the second game. So pretty simple to that, huh? Anyway, I'm going to take off here, guys. As always, love and appreciate every single one of you. If you want to, like, comment, share, subscribe, whatever you guys want to do. It does not matter to me. It doesn't bother me whatsoever. And I'll be here for the Saturday preview, and I will be here for Northern Arizona and Bay Area on Sunday as well. We'll recap it all, and we kind of just go from there. So with that being said, I'm taking off here, guys. Again, love and appreciate every single one of you. With that being said, I'm going to take off. See you.